जगत गुरु श्री प्रभुपाद की आनंद पूरी वैष्णव की आचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्री गौर भक्तवृंद की श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड की की वृंदावन धाम की गोराम की राम की जगत राम की गंगा माई की तुलसी महारानी की भक्ति देवी की वेद भक्तवृंद की श्री पांचतत्व की श्री गौरंगा की श्री गोपीनाथ की श्री योगधर्म हरिनाम संकीर्तन की रंग की जगत गुरु श्री प्रभुपाद की निताय गौर
Do the sweet of our spiritual master. Do the sweet and great of our brothers. By His grace, and I pray in the mercy of Krishna. My very wishes are my conscience purified. I do it in the name of the Lord. Attachment to the lotus feet is affection of the Lord. He opened our eyes and filled our heart and transcended. He is my Lord, the afterward, from him the ecstatic remains, life begins of joy. The Vedic scriptures describe our spiritual master is Vishnu, friend of the poor, Lord of master's devotees, O master, please give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. We take shelter of your lotus feet, blessed Savior of the most world.
He is a devotee from Guyana. He is a disciple of the great Gauranga, son of Prabhu and Shatanaraji. He is a very crucial and very service center there, and a very good friend of mine. Has the opportunity to get the program and doing some very sweet pastimes. And we will play some similar lecture from him. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So it is my good fortune to be able to serve you all this evening by sharing some Harikatha, glorification of Shri Gauranga, Shri Ramachandra, and Shri Radha Gopinath. Before we begin, we'll sing, as is customary, the Jai Radha Madhava Bhajan. Please everyone, please participate as much as possible. Srila Prabhupada has often said, which I'm sure everybody knows, that this bhajan encapsulates the entirety of Krishna's Leela in Vrindavan and gives us a wonderful picture of what Vrindavan actually means. So if we can all meditate on Sri Vrindavan Dham and their worships Sri Radhika and Madhava and beg them that they bless us so that we can speak and hear about their glorious mercy. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kundavi Please let's all recite Sri Mangalacharna. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhisham Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadavaham Yadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Paramahansa Shri Guru Vaishnava Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Sajivam Sadhaitam Sadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Radha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namyo Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedase Raghunathaya Nathaya Sihaya Pataye Namah He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Raje Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhasya Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Ashtadeshakarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Everyone, with our arms in the air, and if we can, hold the hand of the person next to us, recognizing that without the devotee next to us, we will be nowhere in our spiritual lives. So we're chanting the Maha Mantra not for ourselves, but for the devotee next to us. Loudly. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So once again, Hare Krishna, and thank you very much for this opportunity to serve, and I'd like to thank my dear brother and friend, Gopal Raghunathanji Maharaj, for a wonderful introduction, and I think he spoke very eloquently. Don't you agree? Yes? It doesn't sound very encouraging. Did he speak quite eloquently?
Yes.
We should hear one of the answers on one day. He told me once that he has his father's entire lectures, especially the ones he gives at wave programs, memorized by his head. So maybe one day at the wave program you might be inspired. So thank you very much once again, and please give me your blessings so that I may be able to speak something in glorification of Sri Ramachandra. Today's class will be on a wonderful story of the Sri Ramayana, which hopefully will give us some insights and help us to improve our spiritual life and our understanding of what spiritual life means. Please note that while I'm sharing this pastime, it doesn't mean that I have mastered it. I need your blessings as well to apply these lessons and principles in my own life. And I will be very much happy if you can all assist me in that as well. The pastime today about Jatayu is a very special and very heart-warming, very touching pastime in the Sri Ramayana. Who here, I'm not going to ask a negative question, but who here knows the pastime of Jatayu? Please show by raising your hand. At least has an idea. I'm not going to ask you to say it, so please don't feel shy. Who here knows the pastime of Jatayu? Please show by raising your hand, please. So, some of us. For the devotees who may not be so aware, this is a bit of marketing. If you'd like to, there is a wonderful Ramayana series written in novel form, like a modern day novel, without any Sanskrit. And sometimes people say when they see Sanskrit and verses, they feel a bit alienated and they feel a bit distanced. So it's written in novel form. I encourage you all to please purchase if you can. And I think you should. The Ramayana series by Shubhvilas Prabhu from Chaupati. It's a very wonderful series and a very, I think it will give you all, give us all, it gave me encouragement in my spiritual life, and I feel that it will also share with all of you an encouragement to keep on relishing the pastimes of Sri Ramachandra and Sri Krishna. The pastime of Jatayu happens, well, it starts way before the birth of Sri Ramachandra. Dashrath Maharaj, who was the king of Ayodhya, at one time, Ayodhya was facing 12 years of drought. But their irrigation systems were so perfect that nobody noticed until the 13th year. And so he decided to consult with Vasishta, sage Vasishta, and ask him, why is this drought happening? So he said it's because of Shani. It's looking very unfavorably towards Ayodhya. So Dashrath Maharaj decided, being as powerful as he is, he mounted on his chariot and he was going to have a word with Shani. But while having his heated words with Shani, Shani just looked at him and he fell off of his chariot. And who caught him while he was falling from the sky? Jatayu. On one of his wings, just imagine how huge Jatayu was. On just one of his wings, Dashrath Maharaj, his chariot, his horses, and his charioteer could have fit. So Jatayu saved Dashrath Maharaj and helped him. And since then, Jatayu and Dashrath Maharaj became very dear friends. Dashrath Maharaj, in his usual style, said, ask me anything, I'll give you. Right? So Jatayu asks him something very interesting. He says, I want your son to be my son. He didn't have any sons at that time, so he didn't have any problem giving the promise. He said, sure, no problem. Give it. But we'll see how this promise comes to pass at the end of the pastime. We go back a bit more to Jatayu and his brother Sampati when they were small, or when they were younger. I'd like to ask a question before going forward. Anybody knows who the parents, who the father of Jatayu and Sampati is? Except Transpeter Prabhu, I'm sure knows. Anybody else would like to guess? Chandra Prabhu. They were the sons of Aruna. Aruna is the charioteer of Suryadev, the sun god. So one day, Jatayu and Sampati, well, especially Jatayu, he wanted to go and see his father. And he felt, somewhere or the other, if I fly, Sampati was telling him, no, it's not a good idea. Shouldn't go, we'll get born. He said, no, our father is the charioteer of the sun god. Why would he born us? We should go. So he was adamant. We should go. So Sampati, he didn't want to, but because his brother was adamant, his younger brother, they took off. And Sampati told him, please fly behind me. Right? So that nothing would go out of the way. Jatayu was a bit too eager and too enthusiastic. He wanted to fly faster, so he started flying in front of Sampati, and eventually he came closer to the sun, and a sun flare came. Sambati tried to save his brother, and that is how his wings got burnt. And therefore we see, when the Vanaras were at the tip of India, especially Hanumanji's party, they were there looking for Mother Sita and didn't find her anywhere. They were dejected. They came across Sambati. He would have helped them to locate where Mother Sita is. So how did he end up there? And Jatayu ended up way in the middle of India in the Dandakaranya forest. Because when they fell after that whole episode of the sun flare hitting Sambati's wings and they started hurling back to earth, they fell in separate places and they never reached again for thousands of years. They never saw one another. This experience, this story in Jatayu's life touched him deeply and influenced many of the things that he did in the future. From that point onwards, his brother taught him something very important. We don't live for ourselves. We live for others. And we should, as much as possible, look out for the good of the person next to us. At least that is what Jatayu learned. One of the things that he learned. So when Ravana had come to kidnap Mother Sita, and he succeeded in doing so with the help of Marich. Marich had had very interesting experiences with the Lord, and because of those experiences, he was very fearful of Lord Ramachandra. He was spared by Lord Ramachandra. Lord Ramachandra didn't kill him. So he decided to take up being a sannyasi in the Himalayas. When Ravana approached Marich to come and help him to kidnap Mother Sita, Marich told him, "You're a crazy fool, fellow. Shouldn't do this. This is not a good idea. Whoever told you this is your worst enemy, disguised as your friend. Don't listen to them." But Ravana was adamant. So he told Marich that either you go with me or I kill you here right now. So Marich started thinking, it's better that I die by the hands of Lord Ramachandra than this idiot Ravana. So he decided to follow Ravana, and they both went there. We know the pastime. He disguised himself as a deer, and he lured Lord Ramachandra away from the hermitage. And eventually when Lord Ramachandra killed him, he faked Lord Ramachandra's voice to trick Mother Sita into getting Lakshman to also leave. Eventually Lakshman also leaves, and he follows the sun. And Mother Sita is left alone. Ravana comes, disguised, and through some trickery, he kidnaps Mother Sita. While flying in the air away, Ravana was, in one hand he was holding down Mother Sita. You can just, it is oftentimes when I hear this pastime, or I hear it and share it with others, I feel very, it's kind of weird to say that Ravana was holding Mother Sita in one hand. It just feels wrong. Right? He was holding Mother Sita with one hand, and the other hand he was holding onto the chariot, and his chariot he was driving. And they were going. Mother Sita was screaming on the top of her lungs. It is said that the entire universe was quiet. Everybody was lamenting. The Devatas themselves were even lamenting. But they were happy. Anybody knows why the Devatas were happy? Anybody would like to guess? Please don't feel shy.
Death was close.
Yes, Ravana's end is near. He sealed his fate then, basically. Right? Mother Sita kept shouting and shouting, and eventually they passed next to where Jatayu was. And Jatayu, when he heard the screams of Mother Sita, it struck a chord in his heart. Immediately he remembered the instance with his brother. And he began thinking, should I just be a mute witness? He was thinking that I should do something about this, but he knew that he was going to fail. Is it even worth doing if I'm about to fail? And like that he was thinking within his heart. But seconds later, he was already in the sky, flying to go and help Mother Sita. He made up his mind. I'm going to do the service anyway. We'll hear more about what this service and see how wonderful this service that he did actually is. Mother Sita actually tells Jatayu when she sees him, don't come and fight Ravana. You'll lose. He'll kill you. Because by that time, Jatayu was very elderly, very old. He was a very old boy. He didn't have the same strength he had when he was younger. So he began to fly next to the chariot of Ravana. So when he was on the right, Ravana would just ignore him. He was a huge bird. Ravana just ignored him. And he was calling after Ravana, you fool, what are you doing? You can't take the wife of somebody else. Don't you know that is adharma? You're the king of the Rakshasas. Kings should know better. You shouldn't do something like this. Don't you know that in your cloth, it's as if you're hiding a snake, a deadly snake within your cloth? You're going to die soon. Let her go. Ravana didn't give any heed. Ravana just kept going. Then, Jatayu was getting a bit irritated. Do you imagine? You're calling after this guy, he's just ignoring you. So he decided to fly in front of the chariot of Ravana. And he landed directly in front of Ravana. Stopped. Started berating Ravana. Fool, you idiot, how can you do something like this? And tried to teach him, put sense into his head. But Ravana just wouldn't listen. One of the things he tells Ravana is that good food cannot be digested if you have indigestion. Right? So it seems giving advice to foolish people like you is of no use because you seem to have indigestion. You can't stomach what it is that I'm telling you. Now there's a vast difference between Ravana and Jatayu. Jatayu was an old vulture bird. Ravana was in his prime. He was very strong. We know the story of Ravana lifting the Kailash mountain. He was very powerful. His arms were very much in good shape. He was armed with many weapons, whereas Jatayu wasn't. Many times we see another devotee might be equipped to do a certain service. And we feel that, they should do that service. But if we see that that service has to be done, why should we not go and take that opportunity to do the service? To the best of our ability. Krishna doesn't value expertise. He values the mood that we have within our hearts. Of course, that isn't to say that we shouldn't try to be expert in our service area. That should be our constant endeavor. But we shouldn't feel a false sense of humility that, I'm not qualified to do that service. Let somebody else do it. Because, in a sense, we're chanting our 16 rounds every single day, begging Krishna, Srimati Radharani, Krishna, Nitai, please engage me in your service. So when that service opportunity comes to us, we should grab it with enthusiasm. We should be ready, just like Jatayu is ready to serve. Even though knowing that he would fail, he was ready to serve. He tells Ravana that I'm fearless. I know that you're way more powerful than me, but I'm fearless because I defend the truth. And what are examples of this? In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a very wonderful verse in the 4th canto, 7th chapter, text 22, where there's a beautiful verse. Krishna Krishna Mahabaho Bhaktanam Abhayankara Tameka Dahyamananam Apavargosi Samskriti. Krishna Krishna Mahabaho. O Krishna, O most powerful one. Bhaktanam Abhayankara. You grant fearlessness to your devotees. Tameka Dahyamananam Apavargosi Samskriti. It is only by your mercy that your devotees are fearless in the face of all these miseries within the material world. Just like Srila Prabhupada coming to the West. Fearless, he didn't know whether he was going to succeed or fail. In the same way, actually, there is one beautiful lecture of Srila Prabhupada describing this pastime of Jatayu. And Srila Prabhupada almost breaks down in tears when describing the service mode of Jatayu and how wonderful of an example Jatayu is for our spiritual lives. There's another beautiful bhajan that is popular in our Sanatana Dharma or Hindu community. Hamare saath Raghunath ki kis baat ki chinta. But when Lord Ramachandra is with us, हमारे साथ रघुनाथ जी, when Raghunath ji is with us, then किस बात की चिंता? Why are we worrying? Krishna is always with us. And we see this in many situations. Especially a beautiful and touching example is the devotees in Russia, back in the days of the Soviet Union. Their fearlessness in preaching Krishna consciousness and their dedication to the mission of Srila Prabhupada is absolutely inspiring. Amidst all odds, they were tortured, some of them were killed. It's unimaginable the sufferings that they went through, but still they wouldn't give up the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jatayu still tries to give some advice to Ravana. He says that one should endeavor for Kirti. Kirti means good character, good faith, not Yasha. Yasha is temporary. In simple terms, what he's telling you, don't leave footprints on the shores of the ocean of achievement. Don't leave footprints on the shore of the ocean of achievements. Sometimes we have this, sometimes we all have this kind of mentality that I want to achieve this, I want to achieve this, I want to achieve that. And especially in devotional service, I want to achieve Krishna Prema. And usually, we know by the description of our acharyas, Krishna Prema is not something that is achieved. It is something that is given to us. We receive Krishna Prema. It's not achieved. So we don't try to leave our footprints on the shores of the ocean of achievement. Instead, because the waves of time will wash those away. Instead, we try to make lasting impressions and engraving our impressions within the hearts of everybody that we meet, the inland hearts of everyone that we meet. Krishna tells us in the Bhagavad Gita, a very wonderful verse in the 12th chapter. He says, among many other things, he who is a kind friend to all, who is not envious, who is satisfied with anything, lists many qualities. Such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. Krishna says, he who is a kind friend to all is very dear to me. That all doesn't just mean our own devotee community. It means everybody. Krishna then said, who he is a kind friend to my devotees. He said, who is a kind friend to all. Such a person is very dear to me. If we follow the principles of Bhagavad Gita, that can help us to make impressions in not just devotees' hearts, our fellow devotees, but even the people outside, the non-devotees as we may term them. That good impression that we can leave within their hearts can be the beginning of something great, can be the beginning of their spiritual life. There's a beautiful, before we continue with the wonderful interaction between Jatayu and Ravana, there's a beautiful chaupai in the Sri Ramcharitmanas, which we'll attempt to sing. Ram, Siya Ram, Siya Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Jatayu tells Ravana, before the last thing he tells him, he makes a last attempt at giving him some good advice. He tells him, this terrible flame of the wrath of Sri Ramachandra will burn you and your entire family and your entire country. Please don't do this. And they say that when the devotee says something, it always comes true. And that word of Jatayu came true when? When Hanumanji lit the entire Lanka on fire. Jatayu and Ravana, just see Ravana's response. Ravana was so arrogant. Ravana told Jatayu, among many other things, one of the things that he told Jatayu is that you can have a hot rod, fiery hot iron rod, right? Throw that water on the rod and the water may vaporize. That is our experience, right? The water vaporizes. But he says, someone may throw water on a hot iron rod and it will not vaporize. Right? That is possible. But it is not possible for Sita to be in my captivity. Once she's come in under my hands, nobody can take her from me. Just see how arrogant he is. And this Jatayu couldn't handle. Jatayu then started to attack Ravana. It's a very wonderful scene, those of us who like action scenes. It's a very wonderful scene to quench your thirst for action and adventure. Jatayu begins to claw at Ravana. First, he jumped on Ravana's head, took off his crown and threw it on one corner, ripped the flag off of his chariot, and then began to attack him, flying and attacking him in various ways. And Ravana was just trying to, beat him aside, like nonchalantly. Jatayu then went on one side of Ravana, plucked out how many arms on one side of Ravana? 10 arms. Plucked out all 10 arms. Went on the other side, plucked out the other 10 arms. But they grew back by the boon of Lord Brahma. Then he began to try to pluck at the head of Ravana. In the war between Lord Ramachandra and Ravana, many times Lord Ramachandra cut the head off of Ravana. Right? And the head would grow back. Sometimes you might ask, Lord Ramachandra is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Didn't he know that he was supposed to shoot Ravana in his navel to kill him? Why is he just wasting time? Why didn't he just shoot him in the first place? Why are you wasting time cutting his head? And Lord Ramachandra innocently asks Vibhishan, why is the head coming back? Right? Our Vaishnava acharyas tell us the reason why Lord Ramachandra is kept cutting off the head of Ravana is a very wonderful reason. It shows the heart of our Lord, the compassionate nature of the Lord. The reason why he kept cutting off the heads of Ravana and seeing another grow back, he would pause before cutting that head off. The reason is because he was hoping, the new head might get better sense. But of course we know that was not the case. So a fierce battle took place. Ravana started to fire arrows at Jatayu. And in one go he picked up his bow and 100 arrows he shot continuously at Jatayu. Jatayu just brushed them off. He came and he broke the bow of Ravana. Then Ravana picked up another bow and showered 1,000 arrows on Jatayu. Some of them pierced his feathers and started to make him bleed. But Jatayu just continued. He brushed them off as much as possible. He went and killed the charioteer of Ravana. The chariot then began to fall, and it fell on the ground, scattered on the floor in pieces on the ground of the forest. Ravana, still holding Mother Sita in his hand, threw her aside. Just imagine. I was thinking while reading and listening to this pastime. Ravana professed so much love for Mother Sita. Right? That I love you so much. I want you to come under my shelter. I'll take care of you. And just see how he's treating her. Right? In the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is a beautiful description of what actual love is and what lust is. What is lust? Lust is when we try to enjoy our own senses. Anything that constitutes us, giving us pleasure, enjoying our senses, that is lust. Therefore, almost everything that happens in the material world is simply lust. We say, I love you, and the person says, I love you back. But that may not be actual love, if Krishna is not in the center. Actual love is satisfying the senses of Krishna. So Ravana just throws Mother Sita aside and he begins to fight with Jatayu. After a while, he's realizing that Jatayu is making quite an effort. And just see Ravana's nature. Devotees are very simple, very straightforward. Jatayu is very simple, straightforward. Ravana said, Jatayu, you're very powerful, very wonderful person. You can go on fighting for ages. I'm getting tired. So here's what. We'll make a deal. You tell me your weak spot, I'll tell you my weak spot. Right? Jatayu says, okay, no problem. And Jatayu tells him, my weak spot is my wings. Naturally, the main thing on a bird's body is their wings. That is what they depend on the most. Ravana said, oh, my weak spot is my right toe. So Jatayu realized, you know what? Let me go for his right toe. Jatayu went forward, tried to catch his toe, and Ravana, with his Chandrahasa sword, just see how demoniac he is, using the sword given by Lord Shiva to destroy another devotee, cut the wings off of Jatayu's body. Jatayu began bleeding. He fell to the ground. Blood started oozing from his body. Blood started oozing from his mouth, his eyes, and Jatayu couldn't move anymore. Mother Sita started to cry piteously. Because for her, Jatayu was as good as Dashrath Maharaj. Was like her father. And seeing Jatayu in this condition, she told him, don't come. Just tell Lord Ramachandra that Ravana is taken. So that he'll have an idea, at least. Don't come and do anything, he will kill you. But Jatayu did more than was expected of him. Jatayu didn't say anything. He just looked at Mother Sita with tears in his eyes. Now Vaishnava Acharyas say that Jatayu didn't have to say anything. He delivered an eloquent speech through his actions of trying to serve. Mother Sita ran to him and tried to give him some comfort. She was crying piteously. Ravana dragged her by her hair. Just see, he loved her so much. Dragged her by her hair and started to proceed again. And while Ravana left with Mother Sita, where he was trying to leave, Mother Sita broke away from his grip and ran to one of the trees nearby. Hugging the tree, she said, "Oh tree, please don't let me go." And it said at that time, the forest became extremely silent. The Devatas themselves became silent. Everyone was weeping. And out of everyone else, out of all the animals, the fishes were weeping the most. But nobody could see their tears in the ocean. Ravana took Mother Sita and continued. Then began a painful wait. You can imagine? What was the instruction given to Jatayu? Mother Sita instructed him to tell Lord Ramachandra that Ravana has taken you. Now, whatever he did, you might say, okay, it's enough. You're in so much pain, it's okay. You don't have to do this service. But although he did more than was expected of him, he still wanted to fulfill what was at least his least service. The least he could do was at least deliver the message. So hanging on for his life, he waited for Lord Ramachandra while constantly chanting the name of Ram, Ram, Ram. Shri Ramachandra Bhagavan ki Jai. Now, how amazing is the service of Jatayu. He gave his life practically for Lord Ramachandra's service, for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the love of his heart, the Lord of his heart. Just imagine, put yourself in the shoe of Jatayu. You did all of that service, your wings are cut off, you're barely hanging on to life, waiting for your Lord to come so that you can deliver this message. And that Lord does come. But the Lord, who you love so much, and you're waiting for, mistakes you for a demon and approaches you with an arrow knocked at his bow and his bowstring drawn, ready to shoot at you. Because the Lord, when he first saw this bloody scene and this vulture, which he couldn't make out the body of the vulture, he thought it was a demon. He thought that this demon had eaten my Sita, and now he's there relaxing. And so he took out one of his arrows, him and Lakshman, and they pulled their bows and were going to shoot at Jatayu. Jatayu doesn't say anything. He just says one word, Ayushman. He gives his blessings. Then you live long. There's a beautiful verse that he actually says in the Sri Valmiki Ramayana. Yamaushadhim iva ayushman anveshasi mahavani sadevi mamacha prana ravanena ubhayam hritam. He gives Lord Ramachandra blessings for long life. And that personality, the one who you are searching for, like a medicine for your pained heart, has been stolen by Ravana. And he has taken my life. Lord Ramachandra then realizes who it is and he drops his bow and his arrow. He immediately runs to Jatayu. And he takes Jatayu on his lap, and Jatayu painstakingly, struggling to keep his life, but he painstakingly tells Lord Ramachandra the details of what happened between him and Ravana. And tells him that Ravana took Mother Sita. Lord Ramachandra could not believe, and tears started flowing from his eyes. Then, after telling Lord Ramachandra like this, he tells Lord Ramachandra something very amazing. The reason why he did what he did. It is said that Ravana was a very wonderful astrologer, very scholarly personality. The time at which he came to take Mother Sita was in the Vindhya Muhurta. And it is said that anything taken within that time period is never returned to the owner. Ravana was very smart. He didn't do anything haphazardly. Jatayu just wanted to delay it to the next Muhurta, the Punarvasu Muhurta, where if something is taken from a personality, that thing is returned to them tenfold. Now it might seem that Jatayu failed in his service. He was trying to get Mother Sita away from Ravana and keep her for Lord Ramachandra. Seemingly he failed. But did he actually fail? Please think about it. After telling Lord Ramachandra like this, he says, I have done my duty, and I feel extremely fortunate dying on your lap. And while uttering the name of Lord Ramachandra, that great personality, Jatayu, passed away. It is an actually amazing pastime. I was just sharing with Shanta Bigurapuri. Maybe some other senior devotees are here. What happens next is unprecedented. We've never heard the Lord doing something like this. Not even for his own parents. Not even for Dashrath Maharaj. Bharat performed the last rites of Dashrath Maharaj. Lord Ramachandra then proceeds to perform the final rites of Jatayu. He tells Lakshman, build a funeral pyre, and himself, with his own hands, with his own two lotus hands, performs the last rites of Jatayu, fulfilling the promise of Dashrath Maharaj, that your son will be my son. And is described by our Vaishnava acharyas that in this ocean of sadness that came into Lord Ramachandra's life by the separation of Mother Sita, losing Jatayu was like a colossal tidal tsunami wave in that ocean. When Mother Sita had been just taken by Ravana, Lord Ramachandra came back to the hut looking for Mother Sita. He tells Lakshman, Lakshman, I can't live for 10 seconds without Sita. I will die. I will give up my life. But we see that the Lord continues to live for 10 months. Right? He says he can't live for 10 seconds without Mother Sita. Is it just that he's saying, we say many things, right? Oh, I love you so much. But we may not necessarily mean it, right? But is it that the Lord is saying it sarcastically and he doesn't mean it? No, he actually meant it. He could not survive without Mother Sita. But our Vaishnava acharyas say that the reason why Lord Ramachandra lived for 10 more months without Mother Sita is because of the blessings of Jatayu, blessing him with long life. This is the reciprocation between the Lord and his devotees. The service of Jatayu is one that is absolutely amazing and left an impression on Lord Ramachandra's life. So we see a few things. Marich wanted to die by the hands of Lord Ramachandra. while doing a disservice to the Lord. He separated Lord Ramachandra and Mother Sita. Jatayu, on the other hand, died by Ravana's hand while trying to get Mother Sita and Lord Ramachandra back together. Whose service is greater? Or who is greater? Jatayu. And we may consider, is Jatayu's service actually a failure? Did he actually fail? Sometimes we see in our spiritual lives, we lose some battles. If by losing those battles, it brings for us greater remembrance for Krishna, then is that battle a bad thing? Like for instance, a very wonderful example is the life of the Pandavas and Kunti Maharani. How many things did they go through in their entire lives? They were threatened when they were small. Bhima was poisoned with a cake. Then they were put into a house made of flammable materials and Duryodhana tried to set them on fire. Then Draupadi Maharani was disgraced in an entire assembly. So many calamity after calamity. But yet, Mother Kunti prays, Vipada Santuta Shashvat Tatra Tatra Jagaturu Bhavado Darshanam Yatsat Apunar Bhava Darshanam. But Krishna, I pray that those calamities may come again and again. For by those calamities, we will have your association. Seeing your face, we won't have to see the face of samsara, the cycle of birth and death. That is the understanding. Now we may not have to go through such trials and tribulations and such sacrifices. But when an opportunity to serve the Lord comes and presents itself to us, it is important for us to take that opportunity with absolute enthusiasm. That service is what connects us to Krishna. If we come to the temple and we say and we post on our social media statuses, I love Krishna. Right? I love you, Lord. This thing, that thing. We say, Lord is so beautiful, this thing, that thing. And we profess to have such a wonderful relationship, but we do know, we hardly engage in sincere devotional service from our hearts, giving everything. Even if we are doing the service, are we giving 100%? Or are we holding back something? We should give our all, just like Jatayu gave. Everything, he surrendered everything to the Lord. Bali Maharaj surrendered everything to the Lord. And these devotees are the devotees who are well renowned. Bali Maharaj lost everything, but did he really lose everything? He got Lord Vamanadev to be constantly with him, 24/7, giving his association. So true service and true the service that we render to Krishna, whatever service it is that we render, builds our relationship with the Lord. That is why Srila Prabhupada calls it loving devotional service. Because that devotional service helps us to build that relationship with the Lord, that we can begin to love Him more and more. So with these few reflections on the pastor of Jatayu, I would like to say thank you very much. And if there are any comments or corrections by any one of the senior Vaishnavas here, please feel free to go right there. Thank you very much.
Sometimes in devotional service we make excuses. Maybe we old or weak or whatever it may be. Maybe we actually old or not so old in devotional service. And Gauranga Prabhu from Chapati listened to the same pattern, Nitai, and he said we should use him as an example why we should never give up all devotional service, even though we may be apparently incompetent or think we may not be able to do something very significant. We should still try and make that endeavor until the end and not give up on devotional service. I thought that was just a relevant contribution.
That is very true. And sometimes it is also easy for us to think only devotees like Nitai are great and they have done things like this. But devotees even in our presence, I'm sorry, I may not be so familiar with the devotees and their pastimes in Trinidad. But there was a wonderful devotee couple in Guyana, Vasudev Prabhu and Mother Revati. They were very elderly in age and they had various health complications and everything. They would still show up for their service until they couldn't make it anymore. One devotee was sharing that one morning it was raining heavily. And this was way back in the 90s or the late 80s, early 90s at the Eiffel Temple. And the rain was falling heavily in the morning. And they were to come and dress the deities in the morning. And back then they didn't have any cars or anything. And the bus would stop them a distance from where they had to reach the temple. They still stopped at their elderly age, walked all the way to the temple, came up from Mangalarti, and instead of going to change, into fresh, dry clothes, they said no. By that time Mangalarti was already halfway. Right? They said no, we must have darshan of Nitai Chaitanya Temple. They went straight to the temple room, offered their obeisances, and after Mangalarti was finished, then they left to go and change, and then they came and did their service. And they continued doing that daily service until they couldn't anymore. Prabhuji had some complication with his eyes, he couldn't see any longer, and grudgingly he stopped doing the service at the temple. But at home, he continued the same altar program. That is just one example. But there are so many other examples. I did, you did Vasudev Prabhu's, Mother Revati. Shantaviga Prabhu actually did the Shraddha ceremony for Mother Revati. When was it? It was it was just before my wedding. So this is just one example. Recently, two devotees, while doing their service at the temple, they got burnt. The stove was leaking gas, and the gas flared up, right? And the sari of the Mataji caught fire, burned her entire back. And they usually do service from Tuesday to Thursday, right? 3 days, full altar program. They cook all of the offerings for the deities, everything. Her back is burned, and her face as well is slightly burned. But because her sari caught fire, apron was tight, so she couldn't take off the sari quick enough. And it's cotton sari, you can imagine. And the Prabhu, he was trying to brush the fire out of his wife, and his fingers got burnt as well. I know I would have gone home. Right? Prabhu, at least fix up, man. I do a service. Find somebody else to do a service. But they didn't. They still had to do the arati. That was 3:30, and the deity had to be, the Lord had to be, had to get up, and they had to do arati and everything. And the Prabhu said his hands were burning, but he didn't want to give up. So he was holding the bell like this, and the incense like this, and doing arati like this. And the Mataji still continued to, and you can imagine, if your back is burnt, you can't sleep properly. You have to put on your clothes and everything, the entire back. It's amazing. So devotees do wonderful things for the service of the Lord, even in our yatra today. And it's important for us to recognize those services and be inspired by those services. We recognize those services in order to gain inspiration ourselves. And when we get that inspiration, we don't sit with it alone. But we also have the responsibility of expressing that for Krishna's pleasure. Any other points?
So we had the wonderful opportunity to hear from you last night, and then again today. And on both occasions, what I would have taken away is that service attitude is so important. Last night we talked about Shravari and her service, to Guru and to Krishna and to Lord Ramachandra. And then today, Jatayu and his service attitude. So service attitude, this is what I am taking away. That service attitude is so important in our path of devotional service. That this attitude that we should develop in serving Guru and Krishna is most important. So as you were saying, that these things that we should take with us and remember and try to imbibe in our lives is this attitude to serve. And sometimes, in our lives, we may hit a little bump, have a little obstacle, and sometimes the first thing we do is drop our service. So these pastimes should serve to encourage us, that hold on. It's like a lifeline that we hold on to our service to Guru. So it's not a question, it's just a comment.
Thank you very much, Mataji. It's a very wonderful realization as well. Thank you very much. So it is already time. I'd like to thank you all for so kindly giving me your attention. Please forgive me if I've said anything that offended anyone or anything that is wrong. Please feel free to correct me. And please give your blessings so I can improve next time. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Let's ask anybody else if you want to ask. So, Achala Prabhu told me
That I should finish 6:30 on the dot. Now you're saying we have 2 minutes more. So if anybody else has any other points they'd like to share, please feel free to share. Archita seems to have something. Anybody? Anything else? One of the things, I'll just end with this. I would humbly beg and encourage everyone, especially those devotees of my age group, Gopal Prabhu, Guru Prabhu. I know Guru Prabhu is reading one very amazing book. I hope he's finished, and I hope he can share that with all of you. I encourage everyone to please, as much as possible, see if you can get your hands on the Ramayana series by Srila Prabhu. It's a very wonderful read, and I assure you that it will impact your spiritual life in a very wonderful way. And it might encourage you to read other Srila Prabhupada books as well. So I just like to help you with that. Is that 2 minutes more? Is this Brahma's 2 minutes? Anything else from anyone, please? Chantavi Guru, like to share point. Hare Krishna.
Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that something is very, very difficult to leave a sadhaka, which is fame. How can someone remove that?
How can someone remove fame? You mean get rid of fame? Or the want for fame? I think I need to ask you that question first. But my humble offering to you in answer, it would be Krishna. My understanding is that Krishna in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita told us to do our service, do our duty, not expecting any results. That in itself is a very important point. And it helps us to deal with that want for fame as well. The want for fame is very strong, or the want for recognition. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells us in Shri Shastika that we should give all respects to others and not expect anything in return. I think it is something that we should all try to practice as much as possible. Doing our best for the service of Krishna and not expecting any results. In my opinion, that comes with practice. I don't know if you have some other point to add or some clarification. And if I answered the question. Okay, seems we're ready for thank you very much.
Nitai Gauranga ki jai.
Jayo Jaya Gaura Chande Arati महाराज प्रभुपाद के आनंद कोटि वैष्णव वृंद के नमस्ते श्री हरिदास ठाकुर के प्रेम से गौर श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री आदिवैद गिरिधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद के श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपी श्याम सुंदर तेरी गोविंद के गंगमाई की गंगा देवी की तुलसी देवी की भक्ति देवी की श्री वृंदावन धाम की श्री गंभीर मायापुर धाम की श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा के श्री कृष्ण के श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन के जय गौर ब्रह्मानंदे और जय श्री सुंदर गोपी और जय श्री सुंदर गोपी और जय श्री सुंदर गोपी श्री गुरु गौरंगा और जय श्री
Hare Krishna. Thank you for coming to most auspicious for our Kirtan today, organized by the youths, Gopal Guru Banu. And thank you. Special thanks to Hare Kirtan Rasa and family all the way from Guyana. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much also for watching. This Wednesday, 25th June, is the disappearance day of Srila Bhakti Thakur. And what? It's good? You sure? This Wednesday, 25th June, is the disappearance day of Srila Bhakti Thakur. We have the fast. Where is the any program on this temple? What time is it? Lunchtime program, so that generally starts at about 10 o'clock. Push continually like this, so that's this Wednesday, 25th June. This Thursday coming is the Rath Yatra in Jagannath. So that's the official Rath Yatra, you can say, in India. So you can get a live stream. I think it's Odisha TV. You can check on YouTube and you can get a live stream of the Jagannath Puri Rath Yatra. Of course, that will be India time, so let's check 9.5 hours before. No, 9.5 hours ahead, sorry. And also last but not least, on the 11th of July, we'll be having Port of Spain Rath Yatra in Port of Spain. That will begin from well, here you are not 10 o'clock.
I'm 10 o'clock, so whatever way you should
We'll be beginning at the Memorial Park, Queen's Park Savannah, down Frederick Street around Cipriani roundabout, ending at the Briar Art Promenade at 12:30 p.m., followed by cultural programs. Special guest from Guru Swami and another special guest is Grace at the age for Guru. So,
just want to change that.
huh?
I just want to change that.
Uh-huh.
So, Guru Swami will be coming from the 9th of July.
Uh-huh.
So you have Yatra, and then he is the Guyana on the 12th. And he's coming back to Trinidad after Guyana, so he's, and Mandir is not coming. But Orange Sky, Nitai Lucas, and Kavish from Kavish, they will be performing.
Oh, that's nice. But Guru Swami will be here for the end of the
He will be.
Okay, so he will be here. And the devotees are invited to come to with Maharaj for Rath Yatra on the 12th. So one Rath. And that's in praise? George Shaw. Uh-huh.
Devotees should know that from the Rath Yatra straight down to the September, we'll be having a lot of Swami Sannyasis and guests coming. We have, after the Rath Yatra in Port of Spain, we have His Holiness Sundar Chaitanya Maharaj coming from the 15th to the 19th.
Okay.
And we have Sundar Maharaj coming to Janmashtami.
Okay, so this year especially we'll be having more distinct devotees, and I'm guessing on the Japa group will post it up.
Yes.
And we also in our Ruka group will post it up for the distance sannyasis. So Friday 11th of July, and for those who can make it, Friday 12th of July in Georgetown, Guyana. Sri Jagannath Baladeva Subhadra Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Sri Radha Jal Govindra Karika Jai Sasavare Radhavati Lokamoi Sudurvati Lakshmi Jalapatina Samsare Krishna Vardhavara Parivara Jivajan Swaprasana Vivapai Sanamritapal Radha Krishna Gunapal Nirvana Koshvetanya Namasar Govinde Namabrahmane Vaishnave Swaparunara Sanatana Krishna Prasad Ki Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ki Jai.
Mandir.